Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel TechDataEngineer. So today we will solve one of the ask Pyspark coding questions in interview. Okay, so this is basically for like technical interview. They ask some questions related to Pyspark coding. Okay, so we will solve that. Okay, so let us see that question first. So the question was, you have a large data set of user activity log stored in a Parquet file. Okay, so they have given a Parquet file, and they then on Parquet file they have certain operations, so they wanted to be performed. Each step show. Then we have to write the code for that. Okay, so they have given a you have a large data set of user activity logs. So there is a user activity where user are coming, logging, log out, and everything they have stored in a Parquet file. So they wanted to perform certain operation on that. So first step was to load the data set. So data set in a Parquet format contains column, user id, activity type, timestamp, and session id. So whatever the user activity log have, they have the schema like they have 4 columns like user id, activity type, timestamp, and session id. Okay, so based on these 4 columns we have to perform these operations. So first step was that they asked to load the data set from the Parquet file. Then they ask the second question to filter the data, like extract record where activity type is either login or logout. So we have a data set with schema is user id, activity type, and timestamp, and session id. So the second ask was only filter the data where activity type was either login or logout. Apart from that, if there is any record, you don't have to filter. Then third ask was calculate the number of session per user. So for each individual user we have to calculate the total number of session where user has either logged in or logged out. Suppose I am logging today and then again log out, then log in. So for me there would be a count of 3. So for each user there would be 3 count. So similar to that we have to calculate the number of session for each user. Then fourth was ask was that find the latest activity per user. So like from today, suppose you will see, so who have done the latest activity, like if you will consider the timing now, so who have the latest timestamp. So maximum timestamp we have to consider, and we have to for each user, like for each user what is the latest timestamp. Suppose some user have latest logged in like yesterday only, so for them that would be latest activity would be yesterday. Okay, so we have to find the for each individual user we have to find the latest activity. Then fourth was that join the result. So whatever the calculation you came from the calculated number of session per user and latest activity, we have to join. So join the result of above two operations to get a data frame containing user id, number of sessions, and the latest activity timestamp. So we have to find the three column from that. And then four so this was the 5 scenario they asked based on these questions. So we will understand the questions one more time. So there was a Parquet file where the column or a schema was like user id, activity type. User id is like each user name, user id is like 1234, activity type either login, log out, or whatever the activity. Then timestamp, at what time they have logged in or what time he have logged out. Then session id for each user, use user id. If activity is there, then there is a session id also. Then second was that filter the data. We have to filter the data based on activity type, only we are either logged in or logged out. For that only we have to find. Then number of session per user, for each user how many times he have logged in or logged out, we have to find that number of count. Then fourth was that find the activity per user, latest activity. So whatever the maximum timestamp they have, whatever the maximum things they have done, like either logged in or logged out, they have to find that. And fifth was that to store the result. Okay, so for that what we will do, first we will create a Spark session and all Spark sessions, and then we have to so then from Pyspark the SQL we will import a Spark session. Then we required from SQL function we required call count and maximum. For count operation, we will use count, like group by count for user activity, and then max function for maximum timestamp. So whatever things required, we will import from the pyspark.sql. Then in this line I have created the Spark session, the Spark session builder dot app name. This was the ask. If not asked, you can directly write the particular, you can say, logic for that scenario, like loading the data set, filter the data and all. So this was the ask to make it from start. So I have done that as pyspark.builder.app name. You can make any name, like I have used the user activity analysis because there was a user activity logs stored in questions. There are a user activity log stored, that's why I have made it like user activity analysis dot get dot create. So I have created the Spark session. Then whatever the required count, max, call, whatever the like operation required, we have imported from the SQL function. So we will see first question was that load the data set. So how to load the parquet file? So spark dot read dot parquet, and whatever the path they have, you can give any path where your file is stored. So user activity log dot parquet, that is the file basically stored to that path. So we will do that spark dot read parquet. Okay, so first question done, like we have to load the data set. Then other was the filter the data. So what we have to do, we have to filter the data. So our data is in data frame df. So what we have to do, we have to create a new data frame called filter df. So I have created a new data frame called filter df. So what you have to do, based on activity either logged in or logged out, we have to create a new data frame. So I have created a new data frame called filter df. Then I have used df dot filter. Based on this data frame, we have created df dot filter. And then what we have taken the column as activity type. So we have selected a column activity type dot is in function will check either if there is a logged in or logged out. So because in question this ask was if there is activity type is either logged in or logged out, we have to filter that data. So similar operations we have done. We have df dot filter, we have selected that column activity type. If there is operations called logged in or logged out, we have to find that data and we have to store it in the filter df. Okay, so the second question also done, second ask. Then third was the calculate the number of session per user. So for each user we have to select the number of session. Okay, so we have column like user id, activity type, timestamp, and session id. Okay, so what we will do here, then third was that number of sessions. So we will use session df, session count or df. Okay, so then we have used like filter df, whatever the filtration we have done for login logged out. Then user id, we have taken a group by user id dot aggregate count of session id, like for each user. Why we have done grouping of user id? Because you wanted the result for each user. So that's why filter df dot group by user id dot aggregate count of session id dot alias num sessions, like how many number of sessions they have, whatever the calculation, it will come from the aggregate count, we will store it as a num sessions. Okay, then we have stored that. Then fourth was find the latest activity per user. So how we will find the latest activity per user again, then we will do the group by user id. So how we have done here, we have done latest activity df equals to filter df, whatever filtration will come from here, from logged in logged out, it will take a filter df dot group by user id and then aggregate of maximum timestamp. So maximum timestamp, what it will give, it will give the latest activity. Minimum timestamp give the last activity and it will give the latest activity. So aggregate of maximum timestamp dot alias latest activity, and we have used that. Then fifth question was that key join the result. So we have done that join the result like this normal join operation. Resultant df equals to session count df dot join latest activity df, like latest activity df and then session count, both I have to join that on what basis, user id. Then I have showcase the result df dot show, and then I have used the stop to the Spark session. Okay, so this is the simple questions. They ask step first was loading the data set, then filter the data only we will use is in operation where either there is a column, we have column record, either activity type is either login logout, we have to filter that. Then again there was a latest activity per user. So for that we will use group by, because there was a for each user required, so that way we each user. So for we will use group by user id, and then aggregate count of session id dot alias. Here also df dot filter aggregate count of session id and that alias number sessions. And here also filter df dot group by user id dot aggregate maximum timestamp, it will give the latest activity. Okay, so that we will solve the problem. Thank you, thanks for watching.